Hello artist! Welcome to Mr. Melvin Makes. Today I'm hoping to show you an example of some art inspired by Aboriginal art. Aboriginal art is one of the oldest forms of art still practiced today. You would see many patterns and animals in this type of art. Aboriginal artists would use colors found in nature like brown, yellow, red, and white. The backgrounds were never blank. They just had patterns of dots and lines. What I'm making today is inspired by Aboriginal bark painting, or wood painting. So I'm going to start today with a long kind of rectangular brown piece of paper, something that looks sort of like a piece of bark or wood. Starting with a pencil, I'll put my name on the back and begin drawing on the other side. I remember that you would see many patterns and animals in Aboriginal art, so I'm going to think of a couple animals to draw on this side of my brown paper. The challenge for you is to think of a couple animals that you could draw. In this video, I'll show you how to draw some animals from the outback, like a kangaroo. Or maybe, if that doesn't interest you, you could try a lizard too. I'll show you both of these in this video in just a couple seconds here. Remember, always start with a pencil when you're doing a drawing, especially if it's something you haven't ever drawn before. Right now I'm taking some time to do that because Mr. Melvin makes a lot of things, and one of those includes mistakes. When I make a mistake, I'm happy to start with pencil because I can always erase it, even if it's a little tough. Next, I like to find something dark, especially when working on dark paper like brown, and outline my pencil lines. I worked hard on this drawing, but it's hard to see, so I'm going to take my Sharpie and carefully trace over my pencil lines, or outline them, so that they're easier to see. So if you're drawing a kangaroo like me, step number 1 would be just to draw a curved line. This is kind of the back and tail of the kangaroo. Number 2 is to draw the leg of the kangaroo. For me, this kind of reminds me of a backwards 3 or kind of a fancy or Greek E. Just a curved line with a bent line towards the bottom for the foot, and then a straight line going up for the back of the leg. A little bit above that leg I just drew, I draw a bent line, kind of like let's call it a boomerang, and that's going to be the arm. I also take some time to finish the tail by connecting that first line I drew to the leg I drew in step number 2. I'll turn that line I drew for the arm into a shape just by putting another line next to it and attaching it. I will also attach a line from the arm to the leg for the kangaroo's belly. Whoa, sorry about that lighting mishap. My lights in the art room are set on a sensor, so they didn't see me moving while I was drawing, and they turned off on their own. It's a great way to save energy. But anyway, step number 5 is to draw the head, sort of like a C, just a little bit longer on the top than on the bottom. And then step number 6 is to add the ears, which is kind of like a curvy M like Melvin. And then lastly, a curved line around the belly for the pouch of the kangaroo. You can see that mine's a little different than the drawing I had in step number 6, but that's okay. I just tried my best, and that's all that you ever have to do. I think I'm going to use that as a catchphrase from now on. If you're going to make it your best. Your best is always good enough. Remember that, artist. Well, anyway, let's start this lizard. I think the lizard's a little bit easier than the kangaroo, and step number 1 is sort of like a teardrop shape. So kind of a open circle, but with a point on one side. Again, a lot like a teardrop. The body is kind of the same type of line, just a little bit longer and wider. And then lastly, step number 3 will just have you connect the bottom part of the body to a point for a long, pointy tail. It could curve if you wanted. In this drawing, I have mine kind of straight. It's your choice. You're the artist. The arms are just 2 kind of curved parallel lines, again, kind of like the letter C or a U, any curved line you want to think about. And then hands can always be tricky, but just don't overthink them. And it's sort of just a zigzaggy line of kind of triangle shapes, and just make sure you have 4 or 5 little fingers on there. Again, you're the artist. You can see here all of my feet look a little bit different. I'm really not trying to fuss over it too much. The last step, step number 6, is just draw a line down the middle. From here you could decide to add more details if you wanted, add some scales, add eyes, a nose, whatever you want. For me, that's enough. I'm going to show that once more here with my second lizard, and that is all the drawing I'm going to do today. So I am ready for the second step of my kind of Aboriginal art project, and I am thinking about this last point, that the backgrounds are never blank. They're filled with patterns of dots and lines. So I've got painting supplies ready to make dots and lines. You can see I've got newspaper under my brown paper so I can keep my drawing board clean. I've got a paper towel so that I can keep my brush tidy, clean, and wet or dry enough. I've got a cup of water so that my brush can stay clean when I'm ready to switch colors. And lastly, I've got my paint. I'm making sure my body's ready to paint too by rolling up my long sleeves. That's a great idea if you're wearing long sleeves too. I don't want anyone to ruin their clothes. And I'm just going to take some paint on the top of my brush, and I'm going to tap it along my paper with control, with patience, making lots and lots and lots of little tiny dots. Here we go now. Oh no, I got some paint on my hand. I made a mistake. See, I told you earlier I make mistakes too. I make a lot of things, and mistakes is one of them. So I washed my hands, I came back to work, and then I realized the mistake I made was trying to do only one color at a time throughout the whole piece of paper. That kind of led me to rest my hand in some paint, making a mess. What's smarter is to start on one side of the paper. For example, I'm starting on the left side of the paper, and then work to the right. That way your hand can rest on dry or blank paper rather than having to worry about resting your hand in paint. Remember to wash your brush each time you get a new color. We want to keep our paints clean, especially if you're working in a classroom or with other artists. Mixing colors can be really cool. You can make some cool new colors, but the people you're working with might not want those colors that you want. So think about what you need to do to be responsible. If your cup of water gets a little too messy like mine is, rinse it out, get some new clean water just like that. Boom, voila, magic. Keep painting, have fun, and let's see how this turns out. Wow, I am really proud of my Aboriginal art project. I filled the entire background with dots and lines, and I think it turned out great. I'm setting it aside just so it can dry because I have a lot of paint on that paper and it needs some time to, well, dry. I'm also cleaning up my workstation because that's what a responsible artist will do. I hope you've enjoyed this project and this video. Take care and good luck. Happy making. Make it good, artist. Make it your best.